Listen now, because we're going to talk to Harold the H. Cock-a-doodle-doo about a cricketer, right, that scored as Queensland's first century. G'day, Harold.
Yes, good morning, Danny. Yeah, it's to commemorate the anniversary of Queensland's first Sheffield Shield win, as you mentioned. It's a great cricketing story.
Brilliant segue. Yes, 68 years before we could win the Sheffield Shield, and Alan Border was at the helm with Carl Rackerman. There's a lot of legends. All right, well, let's hear that story.
Now, before I do, I've got to give a shout-out to my son, Murray. It's his birthday today. And so happy birthday, Murray. He's one of your greatest fans, Danny.
How old are you, mother?
How old is his mother?
Mother.
Oh, mother. Yeah. Murray is 29 today. So happy birthday, Murray.
And your dad doesn't even look 29. Good on you, Murray, mate. And your dad's a real quality human being. We love him on the program, expressing the history of Ipswich. So take it away, the H.
Yeah, look, the first cricketer to score 100 runs in the Moreton Bay colony, which, of course, became Queensland. Now, his name is John Slack, or Jack Slack.
Jack. I'll write that down.
Yeah. Now, he was born in London in 1829 and came to New South Wales, as Queensland was then, with his family when he was 4 years old. Now, he grew up down in Maitland, where he made his name as a cricketer and scored a number of centuries there. Slack migrated to Brisbane in 1851 and then on to Ipswich, of course, the place to be. And that's when he became a cabinet maker and continued to excel at cricket. Now, Slack was said to be a very attractive batsman and smart fieldsman. And when discussing the colony's top cricketers of the period, his name was always mentioned first. Now, this big event happened in the early 1860s, back before the railway. The Bremer could only be crossed by ferry, and cricket was played in Ipswich on the site where the railway workshops are now. That was where Jack Slack succeeded in making the first recorded score of 100 runs in the colony. Now, Slack was still a top player in 1866, a few years later, when Ipswich famously bowled Brisbane out for just 4 runs. Now, the top bowler that day was Joe Meads. He was a railway navvy and an underarm bowler, or called a trundler, who took 4 wickets for none in just 18 balls. Now, Slack called Meads the best trundler he'd ever seen.
Wow.
Now, Slack played in a return match against Brisbane, which was a thriller that ended in a tie. So that predated the tied test by centuries.
Right.
Anyway, the Slack family was legendary. All the Slack brothers were great athletes, and a number were considered demons at shearing and butchering.
Wow.
His brother William helped convict a murderer in Ipswich.
Whoa.
And his nephew Michael became Australasian sculling champion. And Slacks Creek in Brisbane is even named after the family. And yes, Danny, you're going to ask about Andrew Slack. Yeah, this is his family.
Slack, he's a mate of mine. He's a great bloke.
Now, the only problem with this Slacks cricketing story, or cricketing claim to fame, is that the only evidence that I can find comes from Jack Slack himself. Now, the first written record appears in 1882, a full 20 years after the alleged event. The newspaper articles that mention it all appear to be written by the journalist Tom Barker. Now, Barker didn't witness the alleged century, and his articles do suggest some doubt because he notes each time that it was Jack who told him. But he did see Slack play and reckoned he was good enough to have done it, nonetheless. Now, Slack must have been talented, there's no doubt about that, because he opened the batting for East Maitland as a 16-year-old against West Maitland in 1846, although that day, Danny, he got out for a pair of ducks. But anyway, his best total that I've found was for Ipswich United against Brisbane's Victorian Cricket Club, when he top scored with 32 runs. But that's it. Nothing like the centuries he claims. And there's certainly no contemporary written record that I could find. But perhaps the truth about Slack is hinted at how he saw himself. See, back in the 1860s, when he was playing for the Ipswich Union Cricket Club, Slack was strutting around town declaring that he was a better cricketer than anyone in the rivals, especially the Albert Club.
Mm.
Now, he said he'd take on any Albert player anytime. Now, one Albert player actually responded, Tom Fodden.
Oh.
Now, he stepped forward and issued a public challenge. A single wicket match. He could use any bowler, and Fodden offered Slack odds of £5 to 20, which is 4 to 1. In today's money, that's around $30,000.
Holy
It was a
jeez.
serious wager. That's right. And Fodden wasn't just talking big. He was a great player. He'd captained Ipswich in that famous match against Brisbane. He top scored and took 4 wickets. And he later represented Queensland in its first intercolonial match against New South Wales. Now, as far as anyone ever knew, Slack never took up his challenge. Anyway, look, Jack Slack passed away in 1903. He's buried in the Ipswich Cemetery. Now, whether he scored the first century in Queensland or not, it doesn't matter, because it is true that the Slack family gave Ipswich and Australia some of its greatest athletes. There's no doubt about that.
I need to tell Slacky, and you can send him a copy of that.
Yeah, look, absolutely. But, Jack Slack, he was a great cricketer, and he certainly repeated the story of himself scoring that first century, but I can't find any records to support it, unfortunately.
And a Queensland team won the Sheffield Shield after 68 years of trying on this day. And David Warner was banned by Cricket Australia from all international domestic cricket in any leadership positions after the ball tampering in the third test of Australia's 2018 tour of South Africa. So there you go. It's cricket, cricket and cricket right here. Bat and ball. But that's a great yarn. And I'll have to tell Slacky. I'll be seeing him very soon. All right, mate. So how do we find out about this story?
Yes, well, you and Andrew Slack and everyone else can just look for History Out There on any of the socials. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or go straight to the History Out There website. That's historyouthere.com.
And happy 29th birthday to Murray. Obviously, if you like your father, you're a gentleman and a decent human being. Have a great weekend there, Harold the H. Ark, ark, ark.